The affiliate marketing industry is on track to hit $20 billion in 2026. And yet, 9 out of 10 people who try to build a business in this space will quit before they ever see results. That number hasn't budged despite better tools, more free education, and more success stories than at any point in history. So the question worth asking, and the one this video is actually about, is what's driving the failure rate? And if you want to start an online business right now in 2026, what can you do differently to become part of the 5% who succeed? When most people hit a wall with their online marketing, they assume the answer has something to do with strategy, such as choosing a better niche, creating a more optimized funnel, or tapping into a smarter traffic source. But despite that, the failure rate has remained stubbornly consistent across every shift in both platforms and tools, which then points us towards a variable that's internal rather than external. What we now know is that more information hasn't moved the needle, and neither has access to better tactics. And the reason is because the underlying problem sits at a completely different level, which we'll get to in a moment. The standard roadmap beginners are given is actually pretty accurate. They tell you to pick a niche, build a presence, create content, drive traffic to a funnel with your affiliate links, and then you can make a profit. These steps can and do work. We see plenty of people online that have used them to build real income. I'm one of those. So if this is the roadmap, and most everyone who starts marketing knows this, why do the vast majority fall by the wayside? It's because the missing ingredient isn't the strategy itself. What's missing is a closer look at the operating system running the person who's executing those steps. So here's a closer look at what I'm talking about. Most people entering the affiliate space come from employment. And employment rewards a very specific set of behaviors, such as seeking security before taking action, waiting for external confirmation or permission, expecting a clear relationship between your efforts and your reward, and perceiving uncertainty as a warning sign. For the sake of safety, you should never proceed when faced with an uncertain outcome. These patterns are fine or even positive for the workplace because they're adaptive responses to the conditions of a job. The problem emerges when someone carries that same psychological framework into an environment where the underlying rules are fundamentally different. The people who succeed in entrepreneurship tend to share a different set of operating patterns. In other words, they act without guaranteed outcomes, and they treat ambiguity as a normal condition rather than a crisis that needs to be resolved. They also make decisions based on their own judgment rather than waiting for external permission, such as a boss or manager, and they measure progress over months rather than days. So when a campaign fails, they read it as information about what to adjust, rather than taking it as evidence that the whole project is broken. It's important to understand that these are learned behaviors and that they can be shifted. Let's examine the step that many people get hung up on, which is picking a niche. Here's what the timeline tends to look like for a beginner who is operating on an employee mindset. In the first week, there's a lot of energy and they're heavily engaged in production. They do research, they build out comparison spreadsheets, and they feel like they are building momentum. Week 2, their decision-making stalls because there's no external authority to confirm that the chosen niche is the right one. By week 3, a new course arrives promising more clarity, so the beginner feels like pivoting is logical, even though it's really procrastination in disguise. By month 3, the obvious conclusion is that affiliate marketing doesn't work, or that it's too hard and not worth the effort, even though the tactical advice is sound and was never the problem. So how do we fix this? Well, the answer to that is quite interesting because of 2 reasons. One is that no matter how many times you try to pivot or change tactics, it won't solve the real problem. And 2, what that means is that you don't have a marketing problem, you have an identity complex problem. So here's a course correction. These 3 core identity shifts determine whether someone can sustainably and consistently execute their strategies. The first is moving from a posture of waiting for perfect conditions to moving toward claiming authority and starting despite being imperfect. The second involves shifting attention away from time spent consuming endless content and toward actual production. This means working on generating traffic, publishing content, and testing offers. The third is developing the capacity to read a failed campaign or a failed post as useful data rather than a reason to reconsider the whole direction you've taken. Each of these three shifts has to be in place before your tactics produce lasting results. The challenge is that most people can understand these shifts intellectually without actually running them, and there's a big difference between the two. Psychological patterns are difficult to self-diagnose while you're inside them, which is why a change of platform or a new mentor rarely resolves the issue, because the pattern moves with the person. Actually pinpointing the specific barriers or mental blocks is vital before meaningful, targeted change can take place. The business readiness assessment was built to address exactly this. In about 3 minutes, it measures 3 dimensions: how you currently make decisions, how you interpret setbacks, whether you're measuring effort or impact. The result is a personalized breakdown of which psychological patterns are running in the background. From there, a free affiliate psychology masterclass provides the complete 3-shift framework along with daily protocols for putting it all into practice. Keep in mind that everyone who is successful goes through this identity transformation. Some of them have taken 3 to 4 years to complete this process simply because they didn't have the framework, but because they persisted and adapted, they became successful anyway. So a realistic picture of affiliate marketing success in 2026 looks something like this. The first month is building a foundation of identity first, income second. Months 2 and 3 involve execution despite being imperfect, which means choosing a niche without waiting for certainty, publishing content before it feels ready, and testing offers to collect real feedback. Months 4 through 6 are about iteration. This is where testing produces data rather than revenue, and that's expected. By months 7 through 9, patterns start to emerge and small income begins to follow. By the end of the first year, the person who built the right psychological foundation is scaling what works rather than starting over, sometimes again and again and again. The sequence most people believe in runs like this. You learn the tactics from watching YouTube videos or taking courses. Then you execute, and then you succeed, and then you can develop the mindset of a successful person. But the sequence that actually produces results runs in the opposite direction. You must develop the identity first, then execute imperfectly, and then you can iterate towards success from there by making simple improvements every cycle. If you'd like to see if you're ready to start your online business journey, your next step is the 3-minute assessment in the link below. You'll find out exactly which patterns are currently shaping your results. The foundation you build determines everything, so don't skimp out on this important step. If you have any thoughts, please put them in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.